computer. All right. Today I got a lot of good stuff for you. First of all, I want to show you the plan for the rest of the course. Okay, we're currently on lesson 10, and today we're going to go through registering for a free GitHub account and submit your show you how to submit your lesson using a GitHub repository. And you, instead of compressing your project now and attaching it to your submission, what you'll do is you'll place the GitHub repo link in the assignment submission, and I will go to GitHub and retrieve your project. Okay, because I want you to get some experience using the GitHub and which is version control, etc. So that's what we're going to do today. Monday, we start lesson 11, which is Spring MVC, which we had just a taste of that this week, but we're going to create a transaction app, and we're going to take and we're going to create a lesson 11 branch, and you're going to end up pushing your changes for the lesson 11 to that branch, and then you'll submit the GitHub link for that branch with your submission. Okay, then lesson 12, we're going to take the same application, the transaction app, and we're going to create a lesson 12 branch off of the lesson 11, and we're going to add Spring data to it. So we'll add JPA and H2 in-memory databases. The app itself will not change a lot, but we'll actually, instead of keeping all the data in memory, we'll persist it to an in-memory database. It won't actually go to a drive. So just like all the transactions will be lost when you restart your application, but that's all right. It's like a database. It's just all in memory, and it's very simple then to change your configuration and put it onto MySQL or somewhere else. The next week we will create a lesson 13 branch, and we'll add Spring Security to our transaction app. We'll add a login screen, a logout screen, and a register screen, so you can register new users, including your. I will, when I check your code, I will register myself and verify it works. And only a registered, logged in user will have access to the transaction page once we enter the Spring Security. And again, we'll push that to GitHub, and you'll give me the GitHub link with your assignment submission. Lesson 14, we're going to study Spring REST. And again, we'll create a lesson 14 branch. We'll add a REST controller, which is going to just display the transactions that are in your transaction app database as JSON, just on the screen. Just dump them on the screen. And that's fairly simple to do. Then we're going to create a new page and a new controller that's going to consume, that's the word we use for web services, the Chuck Norris joke database. You're going to retrieve nerdy jokes, and we want to be sure and specify type equal nerdy, as I'll show you then, because some of the jokes that come back are not very clean. But at least if you put in a type nerdy, vast majority are humorous, nerdy computer jokes, such as yeah, like Chuck Norris can persist a record without a database or something like that. The first program he wrote was kill-9. If you know anything about Linux, that kills existing process. You know, just humorous things like that, and they come back with Chuck Norris in the name. But what we'll do is you can also ask it to replace Chuck Norris with somebody else's name, like yourself, and so it'll come back and say that, you know, Bill Fly can write a program with no loops or whatever, and you'll display that joke that you retrieve to a page, and every time you click on the joke item in the menu, it'll go and retrieve another joke and display it. So that's we'll be working with creating a RESTful service, which was going to to create one. You will display the transaction of the REST, and then you'll consume one by using the Chuck Norris database. And that's the last assignment that is a required assignment that will be graded. The last week, there will be an optional assignment, which I encourage everybody to do, but you got to get lesson 14 done first, is that I will show you how to set up Spring Cloud, and we will create a lesson 15 branch. We will register for a free Heroku account. We'll set up an Heroku application and install the Heroku helper program, and we'll modify the project to run on Heroku. Using the Heroku helper program, you'll deploy your project to run on Heroku, and then you'll submit the Heroku and GitHub links in the assignment. And that will give you a little experience with actually deploying your application to a remote server somewhere, so anybody can access it if they have the right information. So this will not be graded. It's optional. If you don't have time to do it, you know, you can get lesson 14 to do, and then you can come back and do this, you know, after the end of the course. But we're going to, in essence, starting with the lesson 11, we're going to be working with the same application week after week. We'll just be enhancing and adding to it, and eventually we'll deploy that application to Heroku. Now, does that sound good? Like a good plan?
Yes, it does.
Yes, sir.
I think you'll learn a lot about Spring. You'll also learn a lot about Git and GitHub, and you'll also learn about how to deploy your application to a remote server. So that's what we're going to do in the last part of this, the rest of this course. Today, first thing is I was going to show and explain the my Spring plan. The next thing we're going to do is step through creating a GitHub account for my school email address. So I need to, how am I going to do this now? I need to get a, let's grab this new tab and drag it over here. Okay, and we'll go to github.com. All right, this is GitHub. This is built for developers. Of course, it puts in my information for my usual account, but that's not the one I'm going to use today. But this is a development platform inspired by the way you work, from open source to business. You can host and review code, manage projects, and build software alongside 31 million developers. If you've probably heard of Linux, it's a Unix-like operating system. It's very popular today. It's open source. It's and it was written by a guy named Linus something. You'd think I would know that. Linux. And but you see, it runs on IBM big systems and small systems. It's the basics for I think Android, but it was created by Linus Torvalds. Okay, get that out of the way. Yeah. I don't want to donate now, thank you. So Linus Torvalds developed Linux, but if you also put Git up here and search Wikipedia for Git, boy, they are bugging you for money today. But
it's at the bottom under PayPal. You want to close?
Close, thank you. So right here, notice this was created by Linus Torvalds in 2005 for the development of the Linux kernel. He got tired of managing the code in some of the existing source code versioning systems, and so he just wrote his own. And when he only had himself, it wasn't hard to manage code, but as he added additional contributors to the Linux project, he said, I watched an interview on TED Talks, and he said the growing pains were getting up to 10 contributors, to where we had 10 people that were contributing to the Linux. He had to have something like Git to manage the code of all those different people, and now there are literally thousands of contributors to Linux, and GitHub manages all of that. What's interesting is that GitHub also maintains all the source code for Spring and quite a few other different projects are hosted out there. So Git is something that you need to learn about. So we're going to go and sign up. Come on. And so go to sign up, folks. All right. Now, GitHub is free. You can have an unlimited number of collaborators. So Mosen and I have been collaborating on several projects together. You can have unlimited public repositories. But if you want to have private repositories, then you got to pay like $5 a month or something for that. But you can have unlimited public repositories, which is what I do. So now I'm going to replace this, and I'm going to put wfly at dcccd.edu. So that'll be a new personal account. And oh, that's not right. I want to copy that and put it down here under email address, and then I will see if I can get wfly. That's already taken. Okay, then let's make it wfly 37. That works. Okay, and yeah, I think I'll use the same password that I used for my other one, so I won't have to remember. So this is what you need for an account. You need a unique username, your email address, and a password. It must be at least 8, including a number. Make sure it's over 15, yeah, or at least 8. Okay, so now that says it's okay. And by clicking create account, you agree to the terms and service and privacy statements. We'll occasionally send you account related emails. So you create an account. The password you provide report is compromised due to use. I don't care. GitHub has been compromised. Was not saved. Please choose a. All right. Okay, I'll use my password manager and create and let it remember what my password is, and create an account. So now this says that, and I want to replace that with my new password because only my password manager knows for sure now. Let's see, this is a free for a personal account, unlimited public repositories, unlimited collaborators. It's $7 a month for a personal account with private repositories. Oh, look at that. It's free for students as part of the Student Developer Pack. You can do that if you want, but it's just as easy to use a free one. Send me updates on GitHub News. I think I get that through my other one. And help me set up an organization. Okay. So anyway, that's what I'm going to get a free account. And now, how would you like to describe your level of programming experience? I'm going to put very experienced. I guess 50 years plus.
I think that qualifies you.
And I'll use it for school projects, for development, and closest describe you. I guess I'm a professional. It doesn't have teacher on there, and I'm going to submit. Okay, you can learn how to do all of this, but we're just going to start a project. And so right here's a button to create a new repository. So click on new repository. All right, now I got to go over here to my email, and they have sent me an email to verify my email address. GitHub, please verify your email address. And ta-da! I'm now verified. Okay, so let's close that window and continue with this one now. And let's create a new repository. And it says that the owner is WFly37, and the repository name I'm going to put, and I recommend for y'all, is Transaction App. That's what I'm calling it. And this is a Spring Boot application, and it's going to be in a public repository because that costs money. And I found that it's easier to not initialize it with these. Don't initialize the repository with those things. So just create repository. And it brings you up this page to do all this kind of stuff, but don't do any of that. Just come over here and copy with that little symbol right there. And that is the URL of your project, your GitHub repository. So now, let's move on to our lesson 10. that I started on Monday night, and we'll continue on today. Monday night, no, I didn't do all that Monday night, but let's see. And here is a, actually, okay, actually, I don't want to put lesson 10 in that repository. So where's my, oh, there it is. Let's go click on code, or click on transaction app. Okay, don't. Okay. I have one repository as transaction app. Ugh, puts me back at this screen. All right. Go back to here. Let's go to repositories. There. I'm going to create another new repository because this is just going to be the for lesson 11 for lesson 10. That other one will start with using it on lesson 11. So we're going to create one called lesson 10, and I'm going to copy that link right there. And so now go back to lesson 10. And here's lesson 10. Now the first thing before we get into code, let's work with Git. So you go to the VCS menu up here, and you open that, and the second item down says Enable Version Control Integration. You click that. This window comes up. Select a version control system to associate with this project root, and we're going to select Git. And here are some other options: CVS, Mercurial, Perforce, Subversion, and TS. But we're going to use Git. And we say OK. So now this has created a Git repository in this folder in this project now. So all of your changes will be tracked in your local repository. And now if this little symbol here in the corner shows you all the different tool windows we can open, and Git is not on there yet, so let's go up here and always got to find a view. Tools and task and content. All right, where are you? Well, all right, this is. I would think it'd be in view. Tool windows, there we go. Right there where I thought it was. Tool windows in the view menu. And we go down here and there's a version control. So when we click on that, it adds version control to the bottom here. And this shows you have all of these unversioned files, or which are things that you've not added to get yet. Now, I already have a get ignore file in this project, but I'm going to delete that and create another one just for you. Okay, so now if I go to the project, don't change that. Go to the top of the project up here and right click and say new. I should, but don't see. I expected to see a get ignore file. Let's try source and new. It looks like the same list of files. Interesting. All right, this is I know there's a way to create a get ignore file. I just deleted mine. And now I need to create another one. So where are you? All right. Up. That opened them up here. That's not what I wanted to do. Close off. All right. All right. I'm getting upset with myself for not knowing how to create a get ignore file. There's supposed to be a template here. Well, let's see if we can do it this way. Oh, shoot, it's not in that list either. Group by. There we go. Maybe Configure ignored files. All right. All right. Ask Mr. Google and create a get ignore. There we go. How to add files, how to I mean, we'll do it in GitHub, but I don't want to do it up there. That was not helpful. The quickest way to add a file or folder to getignore without typos is right-click on the file. There is a getignore plugin available, which adds an item in the pop-up menu when you right-click a file. To install the plugin, okay. So let's make sure that we've got the plugin. I'm certain that I do, but I'll show you where it's at. Just so you can verify that you have it. And you click get ignore. Add a file or directory to getignore power. Well, maybe I don't have these installed. I use them all the time. Okay. And when we close, okay. And now we got to restart. Okay. Add ignore plugin updated. Fine. Okay. So now let's see if we can create a ignore file. File.
Did you start the recording again?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Thank you. Come on. And new. There it is. Ignore file. And over here, we want to get the get ignore file right here. And it pops up here with different languages. And we'll come down here and select Java. And JetBrains. And we'll click generate. Do you want to add the following file to get? Yes, I do. Okay, so okay, what is that? Anyway, here's the get ignore file. These are the files that's going to ignore putting into get. All the compiled class files, log files. There's BlueJ. It will not put jars or wars or ears, archive files. Here's the JetBrains. Supposedly that takes care of JetBrains stuff. This gets rid of all the stuff in the idea folder. It gets rid of the those, and CMake we don't need, Mongo we don't need. Okay, so now we have a getting north. Would you like to add let's see if we can get our list of unversioned files. Okay. We don't need anything in that. All right, this is still not doing what I want it to. Okay, that one's versioned. Well, show me the 89 files. Ah, there we are. Okay. We don't need this one, .idea. So we can add to get ignore file. All right. And then we don't need any of these. And don't need it, the IML files. And what else? We don't want any XML files. So ignore all files matching XML. We'll keep the Gradle files. Ignore all files under idea. All right, now is that We keep everything else. Probably don't need those, but I'll leave them. All right. These are all of our files that in this application. So let's, that's not what I wanted to do. I want to take all of those and right click, and I want to so now they're all in this default change list. See, all the files are in the default change list. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is the check mark right here means commit. This is going to commit it to the local Git repository. So I click on that, and it brings up this window, and up here are all the files, and so you can just click on that, click on that for all the files in the main, and so everything now is clicked on. The commit message, we'll say initial commit, and I would recommend you uncheck perform code analysis and check to do. They just get in the way. And now we are ready to commit this to the local repository. So there, it is now they're in the local repository, and there's nothing in the change list. Okay? So now, everything's being tracked. Everything I change will be tracked. So let's look at our application today. Finally. All right, first of all, let's look at this entity. We were supposed to create a greeting Pojo, and it's going to use Lombok, and it's going to have a data, all args, and no arg constructor, and it has nothing but a greeting, a string that's called greeting, and it has a getter on it. So that's all there is to the greeting entity. And see, I put it into a sub package or folder called entities. This lesson 10 application is the one that Spring Boot created for me originally, which is the one that gets everything started. And so there's that. So now let's look at our controllers. Here's the hello controller, and here is a get mapping for /hello. Remember your URL pattern in the web XML file? This is the same sort of thing. So this says whenever /hello is put into the URL, you're going to execute this method called say hello. A request parameter is it's looking for parameters in the command line or the URL line of your browser. And if you put in a name parameter and it's not required, the default value is world, and it's a string, of course, and then we define something called a model, which is where you put everything that's going to be displayed, etc. You put it to the model. We're defining a model called model with a little m. And now we add the name to the attribute user in the model. And we return hello. So basically, The request parameter thing is going to process the request parameters in the URL line. If there's not one, it's going to substitute world. Otherwise, it's going to create a greeting. Oh, it's going to return. It's going to execute the. It's going to. This is the page that you want to return to the user, and you're passing the name in there as an attribute. If they entered one, it will be put in there. Otherwise, it'll be world. And if you look down under resources, I have some templates. These are HTML files. Here is the index page. It has a title of Hello World, and it say hello, and it has a link to the hello page. So this is the first page that comes up. Here is the response to hello. It's going to say hello, and then it's going to substitute the value for user from that model area, the attribute user in the model area. So it's going to be substituted right there, this dollar brace. This is a time leaf replace expression right there. Okay. And then we also have a hello rest controller, which is similar. If we say /rest, we have a greet method. And again, the parameter is not needed. The default parameter is world, and it's going to be called name. And this says return new greeting. This is where it's using this greeting class. And it's going to say hello, %s, the string name. So this is the REST controller. So you need to read the Spring in Action book and kind of relate these things that I've put in here to what it says in the book. And so we're going to execute now the lesson 10 application. That's the generated class that Spring Boot created. And we say go. And now it's going to compile this application for us. And there we're starting up Spring. And those red lines there are warnings. Those are something that I think is a combination of Java 10 and Spring. And I don't know why they haven't gotten rid of it yet. But you can ignore them. But now we have started the application on 8080, Tomcat 8080. So if I go back to the a window and I click on my localhost 8080 bookmark here, it opens that index page. And remember, it says say hello with a link to here, and this here is going to take me into the program with a /hello. See the /hello up here? And it says hello world because world is the default. Now, if I put a parameter up here and I say name equals Spring Boot, see, I've already run this before, it's going to change this and say hello Spring Boot. So it took the contents of this name parameter, and instead of using the default world, it put out Spring Boot. And the other thing that we can do here is instead of hello, we can do rest. And now here the REST controller created that get it greeting, and because I put no parameters, it says hello world, and this is JSON. This is a JSON response by default. It's the braces are the outside level, and inside it says that I have a key value pair of greeting, and this is the value for greeting. And this works just like the other. If I say question mark name equals Spring Boot, it'll now come out and say hello Spring Boot here. And all of this is from the code that I've shown you here. This is the REST controller. Again, this request parameter, if you have localhost 8080/rest, it's going to execute this greeting method, which returns a greeting. And it's going to look for a request parameter that's optional. And if there's not one, it's going to use world, and it's going to give it a name. And then this returns a new greeting, and this creates a hello world or hello whatever with that name and returns it. And whatever's returned by this method, because this is a retest controller, it gets rendered as a JSON response on the screen without any HTML or anything, because it's a REST controller. The hello controller, on the other hand, if it says /hello, it'll execute the say hello method, which returns a string. And again, it's looking for a parameter name, which is optional. Default value is world. It's going to call it name, and it defines a model. And we add that parameter, or whatever, it's the default or not, to a attribute name user in the model, and it returns the name of the template that we want to render it in. That hello right there, and what is getting returned by this say hello method in a controller is the name of the page that we want to respond with, hello.html, which is going to take that user attribute that's in the model and render this as in an H2 tag. Now, again, a lot of this is probably confusing if you haven't read, but this is the power of Spring. You know, you're not having to create a servlet and to do a whole lot of manipulation and create an HTML page and get the parameter out there. You know, it's Spring is a fabulous framework, and I'm sure everybody's going, huh? What's he saying? It's all Greek to me. Well, you've got all this on tape now, so basically you can key this stuff in and make it work. Now I'm going to show you one other thing. Down here under test, remember Spring Boot created this lesson 10 application test, and that's that. But I've also put a controller down, some controllers down here. And here's a hello controller integration. Let's don't do that. Let's do the hello rest and hello controller. There we go. This is going to test the hello controller. And this is a JUnit test. And again, we're going to, those things get imported. And it's going to say test hello. It instantiates a hello controller, calls it hello, creates a model, and creates a new binding aware model map, which is a special Spring Framework class. It's going to create a result, and he's going to call controller and call that say hello method in the hello controller, and it's going to pass the world and the model, and then he's going to assert that the model is mapped. When he says get user is going to say world, and that the result is going to be hello. That's the name of the page. That's, remember, the say hello method returns the result, and that's the name of the page is hello, and the value for user is going to be world. So that's going to test the hello controller. Now I'm going to have to stop the application here, because now I want to run this one test. And because and the test passed. So these two assertions were correct. Now let me show you something else. Okay, that did just a unit test. It did not use Spring, did not bring up Spring, the whole Spring application. All it did was do a unit test. You see, this doesn't say anything about a Spring run or anything else. It just instantiated a controller and a model, and it called into my controller and got whatever it was going to return, but it really didn't use any Spring to speak of. Here's the hello rest controller. It's going to have a greeting with a name, and it needs a response entity, which is going to hold that greeting class, call it entity, and it's going to use a test rest template called template, and I auto-wired that. That's a Spring annotation, and it's going to use that template to get for an entity /rest, and going to pass it the greeting class. And then it's going to assert that the entity got get status code, gets back a HTTP status.ok, which is a 200. And it verifies that the entity get headers, get content type, says it's a application JSON. Remember I said the REST controller returns a JSON response? I tested to make sure that it returned a JSON response. And then it says greeting response entity get body, and then it asserts that the get greeting returns hello world. And then here's greet with a name. It creates a greeting response template get for object, and this time the URL is rest ? name equals Spring Boot. And now it expects to get back from get greeting Spring Boot. So here are two tests to test the REST controller using this thing called a test REST template. Now this, though, I ran it with the Spring Runner and a Spring Boot test. And notice this parameter that I passed to that Spring Boot test annotation. Web environment equals Spring Boot test dot web environment dot random port. Now, because I'm using the Spring Runner, it's going to run this through Spring, and it's going to use a random port. So if I had the application running on 8080, this would create a whole different port number and run it on a different port. So let's run this test, the two tests actually. And it instantiates the test, and see, it's actually bringing up Spring. There's those 5 red lines which you can ignore, warnings. And the tests pass. Both the tests passed. And if you look down here, what I want to show you down here is all right, where is it? Trying to show you down here where it ran this test on a random port number, so it didn't conflict with anything else. But all right, somewhere down here it says that it's going to run this on a random port. It gives you the port number, but I'm not seeing it. Interesting. Anyway, take my word for it. It puts it on a random port so it won't conflict with 8080. Okay, and then I have one more controller integration test. And this uses something called mock MVC. Instead of using a REST template, it's using mock MVC. And here's one test, and again, we're using Spring Runner. And I didn't put that okay, see, this does not use the Spring Boot test. It says a web MVC test, which is part of Spring Boot test auto configure web servlet. So it's using a slightly different test. This is mocking up some stuff. Now, what did I say in the assignment? Everybody totally confused by now? Good. I don't want to leave you all without having you totally confused. Well, got to bring this page over, and what did I say in the assignment? This assignment is very detailed, so and it doesn't mention get, so you got to do that stuff on your own. But there's the hello controller. There's the code for the hello HTML, and it says you can start the application with just going straight to /hello. And there's where you put in name equals Spring Boot. Here's the index page, the first page that came up. And now it's showing you some different ways to run it. Did I say anything about tests in here? Yeah, there's the hello controller unit test. Okay, and there's the integration test. And so yeah, all that's right here. There's the REST controller, and so it's all here. So just follow this step by step, and you should come out with something close to this over here. But what I want to do now is that I want to go right here and say run tests in that folder. So this is going to run all these tests. And all 6 of them passed. See? So I forgot that this first problem is got all of these different moving parts, but it's a fairly simple, really, Spring application. It's just responding to with the either with a web page which says hello world, or a page with a JSON response of hello world, or you can pass it a name parameter. So, like I say, I'm sure you're all pretty confused now, but you got a recording and you've got a Word document with everything spelled out in it. And hopefully you can, with this document, this PDF document, can do everything. Okay. Questions?
I am receiving an error whenever I try to run the Spring Boot thing. It says I don't have the Thyme Leaf template or something.
Ah, the time leaf template. Doesn't have the time leaf template?
Yeah.
Oh, did you specify time leaf when you went through Spring Boot?
I followed the instructions on the first video you made, but it's still giving me that error, so I'm not sure. Maybe I just need to make a new one and start from there.
Look in your build.gradle file.
Okay.
And the line you're looking for is right here.
And I'm looking for, I have org.springframework.boot :spring boot starter time length.
Okay. Then next thing I would check is in the project plugins. Let's see, THYMELEAF. Okay, you got the Timeleaf plugin. If you need to check this,
Where do you go for that? You go into tools, where?
into the wrench, which brings up settings. And
Oh,
you
I probably don't have a toolbar.
Oh, we'll go to view and put a check beside toolbar to get this line out right here.
Toolbar, the wrench, plugins. It says I do have it.
Okay. And let's look over here and type in Timeleaf. And it only shows two things: inspections and plugins, which we just looked at. All right. I don't understand. Okay. What's the error message again?
Let me rerun it again so it tells me, because I tried to open up the sample page that you provided us with us on the introduction, and it said the time leaves template was not found. I need to download one.
Okay, now do you have both of these HTML files?
What is that? Out
Hello and index?
templates.
These are
I
Timeleaf
do not.
templates. Aha. That's what you're missing.
So do I just need to create the?
Go into this document and find the two templates.
Oh, did you? I must have skipped over something.
There's the index.html file,
Okay.
and there's the hello one.
Okay.
And now this talks about different ways that you can run this. So let me show you that real quick. Since this is a Gradle project and so forth, we can. All right, I got. Why is that lit up? Well, darn, I don't know why that. I can't get to the bottom of my. Let's see. Okay. Well. Why are my meeting controls lit up at the bottom so I can't see the bottom of the page? Oh, this is crazy. We drag this back over here and make it smaller and bring it back over here so it's a little smaller. So now I can get, say I couldn't get to these down here because of Zoom. Okay, but if we go to terminal, if we type in Gradle W, boot, run. This does the same thing as having IntelliJ run the application for you. But now we're using Gradle to run it. And now the application started. And to take it down, you can Control C and the other thing is that you can go to out and production. Yeah. Oh, by the way, I should show you this. The is this where? No, that's not it. Well, never mind. I thought I had a. Oh yeah, it's under reports. In the build folder that Gradle created when I did a test, here's an index.html right here, and this gives you a nice. Well, that opens it up here. Right click, open in browser, Chrome. So when I ran that all those tests a while ago, Gradle created this nice test summary for me, and it said that here's the context load passed, and this one passed, had no failures. So you know it shows you a nice formatted report, which is just something else Gradle does, but you don't have to be concerned about that. I just wanted to show that to you. What else did I say in here? Well, don't worry about this guy. Just don't worry about the jar file. But here's the start with the boot run, which is just the same way as having IntelliJ start it with the in the run dialog box here or up here. It's the same sort of thing. All right, questions?
Do I have to download something for Git to be working in my IntelliJ?
Possibly.
Because whenever at the version control whenever you selected Git and it made the repository for you automatically. I got an error that said cannot run Git, file not found, git.exe.
Oh, okay. All right, let me show you that, guys. You go to, just type in, not GitHub, but Git. It's a version control system for tracking, and Git is a free and open source distributed version control system. Downloads. And I guess you're gonna have to download this guy and install it. Interesting. That's I guess that's something that I did a long time ago and totally forgot about because don't think Git integration, GitHub. I mean, we got all those. I guess you have to download that that Git program and because oh, and I need to show you one other thing, folks. Now remember I said that my changes have been committed to the local repository. Oh, that shows one other change. That's all I did was put in that carriage return. So I'm going to hit revert, and that's going to put it back like it was and remove it from the list of changes. So everything has now been committed to the local Git repository, but we have the Git repository, the remote repository. So let's go back to all right. Well, yeah, here. The lesson 10 repository I created, and copy this link right here, which is the URL of this repository. So now I go back to IntelliJ and I go VCS and Git, and I go down here to remotes, and it says nothing to show. So if I do a plus sign and put that URL in there, so now it knows about the repository. And so now I go to VCS and push. Okay. This pushes your commits to the remote repository from your local repository to the remote repository at GitHub. And see, this shows your initial commit right here that we did 43 minutes ago and all the stuff that did that. And if you say push, I got to log in. Okay. That's kind of a problem. I got to go get my big old safe password since I don't know what it is. Copy password and over here and paste my password in there and type in login. And so now it's pushing that commit I made a while ago up to the GitHub. You see the little cat down here moving back and forth. It's pushing. And do. Well, this is taking a while. Maybe that's because I have a window on another screen that I have to respond to. Get credential manager for Windows. Okay. Huh. Push failed. Oh,
Is that your old account or the new one you created today?
it is. Let's see. You're right. Thank you.
No problem. Boy, it keeps asking me for credentials on my other screen. All right. Once you get this set up, you don't have to do all these things, but I'll bet you it's going to fail again.
Okay, well, if you have problems pushing to GitHub, then just compress the project folder and send it to me. I'll accept that this time. Hopefully by next week we can have GitHub working, because starting next week, as I said at the beginning, we're going to start the project, and we're going to use that same project over and over again, and we're going to use GitHub branches to check out a new branch from GitHub, make our changes, and when we're satisfied with it, then we'll push those changes to the branch, and we can merge the branch then into the master. And so that's another something that you'll learn how to do. But the rest, starting with next week, basically we're going to use the same GitHub repository for the rest of the course with different branches and so forth. But that way you can step back to any of the lessons from your GitHub repository, and you can bring back like lesson 11 and make changes to it and send it and put it back up there. So you can version your changes to that repository is what I'm changing. All right. Well, I don't know.
Professor Fly, could
Yes.
there be an issue with the remote repository that you entered in?
There could be.
I don't know if there's maybe a mismatch, like you had your old repository and trying to log in with the new login information. I guess not. It says, well, W
What
Fly
does
there.
that do? Oh, there's the way you can get. Do you see that, folks? On the page where I created on this page, you can set up to desktop and download and install this guy. That's another way you can get the get for your machine. What does SSH do? I don't know what the problem is. I do too. Just saw it. Just occurred to me. Come back over here and stop this guy. Stop. Stop pushing. Come on. The problem was I was putting in the wrong user ID, and nobody mentioned that. I gotta get this one to stop first, or I can start another one.
Oh, is it because you didn't have 37 in there?
Yes. Well, drat. Why won't it stop? Maybe because this window is up here. There. Because I had a window on my other screen. the Windows part of it. Okay, this is going to work this time, folks. Watch. Get and push, push, and I'm going to cancel it here so it comes up over here. And this is WFly 37 and my password. Look at there. Duh.
Very good.
So it doesn't just happen to us.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I've been working many hours on this course. Okay, and with Spring and Mosin's been helping me some, and together we're going to get through this class. But we're all going to be a whole lot smarter on advanced Java and Spring than when we started this in the earlier this semester. Okay, so now I have successfully pushed to my remote repository, and if I come over here and I open up my repository, why is it still showing me this?
Didn't you push it into your lesson 10 repository?
Did I?
I don't know.
Probably did. Nah. There's a new beta feature. I don't care. You're right. It's here. There it is. See all the sources here and all the Gradle files. And if I click on that source link right there, there's main, and there's the package. There's the controllers, and there's the entity greeting, and the original application. And see, you can actually look at the code up here. And if I go back to here, yeah, so, and it shows that I have one committed an hour ago. That's not the push, that's the commit. And it's got a single branch right now, which is master. As I said, next week with the transaction app, we're going to create some branches for lesson 11 or branch for lesson 12 and so forth. So there it is. By the way, it's helpful to have a README, but it's not necessary. That's a file that you'll see quite often, and it's just basically a text file here, and this is I knew 2438 lesson 10,
You like them?
and
I probably saw you there.
see, there's what it looks like, and commit that new file, and now it has a README. See. Okay. Any other questions?
So I downloaded Git and all that and configured that stuff, but I'm missing an ignore file still.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not seeing it in the plugins that you showed earlier.
Okay. Okay, what you got to do is go down here to browse repositories and here type in ignore.
Okay.
And I think I put in which one did I? Yeah, get ignore. This is, I think, the one you want right here. I don't know. Although this one is got 5 stars up here and much more many downloads. So maybe it's this one that you want. I put in both, but probably this is the one you want. And then hopefully you should be able to slow build. Go to here and type in a new and ignore file, and then select get ignore. See?
Yep, I'm seeing it now. Thank you.
Very good. All right. Other questions? I guess adding get to this was added a lot of complexity to it. So I would recommend that you first get the lesson working without get, and then come along and add the get to it. But at least then you can submit the lesson without get, which I will accept this week. But you need to get set up in get, because like I said, from now on we're going to use it for the rest of the course, and I want you to get a lot of experience using it. Okay. Anything else?
If we already have an account, we don't need to create a new one, right?
That's
As
correct.
long as we can send you the
Yes.
URL. Okay, thanks.
All right. Hearing no more questions, and I guess we'll sign off for today.
Thank you, Professor.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome. I'll put this recording out there because you'll probably need it. Between the recording and the PDF document on the lesson, which is very detailed, I think you can get through this. But let me know if you need help.
Thank you.
All right. So long.
Thank you.